Again, thanks everybody for joining today. Our agenda here today is going to be shown on the next slide. Here is to provide you with information about the kinds of things that are now available in the MetroAE platform. And some of the folks on the call may not be familiar with MetroAE, so we're going to start out with a bit of an introduction for what MetroAE is, and then we'll jump into some not demonstrations, but explanations of the features that were added in version 3.4 release. We are also going to provide links to where you can go to get more information. We have a website. You'll see a URL for that. At that website, you can request access to MetroAE if you don't already have it. And you can also, you'll find a link to our YouTube videos. And on the collection of YouTube videos that are available, you will find an introduction, how to set up the container, how to use the wizard, and a number of other things. Those are very helpful ways for you to get started with what's going on in Metro. A little bit of housekeeping. I would really appreciate it if, as you join, you mute so that you're not background noise from your location doesn't interfere with the presentation. If you have questions, please do jump in and ask. We'd like to make sure you leave the session with your questions answered. One other piece of information, and that is the next version of Metro, version 4, is scheduled for release at the end of this month. So at the end of March, we'll see version 4 coming out. We will follow that release with another one of these kinds of meetings, that you can get an idea of what the new features are like. In between now and then, we are also planning to have a deep dive webinar similar to this one that goes into some of the features and gives you a demo of how to use them. With that, let's go ahead and get started. By way of introduction, we want to answer the question, what is MetroAE? What it is, it's a platform that we've developed for the automated installation and upgrade of the Nuage Networks components. There are two ways that you can consume it. We deliver it either as a Docker container or as a GitHub clone. So whichever one suits your environment the best will work for you. And in terms of the kinds of inputs that you provide to make MetroAE work, is you have to choose. You can use our command line wizard, which will put you through a bit of an interview, and it will ask you questions about your situation and then fill out the input files for you. It will also do some checking of the environment to make sure that everything is set up correctly and ready to go. You can also provide inputs to Metro via spreadsheet or CSV file. So we have a sample of that, by the way, that gets delivered along with Metro so that you'll have an example to start from. Or at the end of the day, all the input are YAML files. So the command line wizard produces YAML files on your behalf. When we parse the spreadsheet, we produce YAML files on your behalf. But you can also edit those YAML files yourself if you'd like. The YAML files are in collections that we call deployments. So deployments are subdirectories with particular names. And so each of the deployments can be a specific thing that you want to operate on with MetroAE. So for example, you could have a deployment for Data Center West, and another one for Data Center East, and another one for VNS Orange, or whatever it is that you like. We're flexible enough to handle that. And you can have multiple of those deployments on disk at any given time. Of course, the motivation we have, why did we develop this automation engine? And that is we're looking for a way to do installs and upgrades that's faster and more reliable than doing it manually. What we deliver as part of this is we do prerequisite checks before we start to increase the likelihood that we will be successful. And then when we're done, we execute health checks to verify that we've done what we've promised to do. And one of our goals, why we've developed this, is that we want to make it such that you, as the consumer of MetroAE, don't have to write code. You don't have to write scripts. You don't have to understand the how behind the installation. You simply need to declare what you want using these YAML files or one of the other input methods, and then we'll take care of that. We've also architected the platform with several different kinds of consumers in mind. So at the one end of the spectrum, you have this high-level command which says install everything. And so the Metro will go into the YAML files. It will determine what you've asked it to install or upgrade, and it will just do everything all for you. But we've also introduced hierarchical commands such that you can go from that top level to a lower level, like install VSDs. And then it will just install the VSDs. Regardless of what you have defined, it will only do the VSD step. And there's even a layer down below that you can use to break up the operation in different steps. So there is a step-by-step. First, let's bring up the VMs. Okay, we've done that. Now let's install the VSD software on the VSD itself. Okay, now let's check the health of that and make sure all monet summary output is correct and all that. We have that kind of design in the built-in so that you can either mix and match. You can say, all right, I just want to install everything. I'm doing a POC. I just want to throw up one VSD, one VSC, and an Elasticsearch. Boom, you can do install everything, and it'll do that install for you. If you have a customer who wants to take it slower, wants to execute scripts in between, they have their own checks, their own things, you can also use Metro to do that. And we're still doing this in an automated way. And then the other reason to develop, or another reason to develop MetroAE is that we want to make sure that everybody, all of the people on this call and everybody who uses MetroAE doesn't have to worry about, oh, now how do I have to change my script? Nuage has just put out a new release. We take care of changing Metro every time a release comes out, and we do extensive testing of each release to verify that Metro is going to work properly for you. This slide it's not here so that you can see all the details, but this is just a snippet of the kinds of automated tests that we do either daily or weekly to ensure that Metro is working. So we're testing all these different versions, we're testing all these different combinations, we're doing installs, upgrades, we even have tests to make sure that the wizard is operating correctly. So we're working very hard to make sure that we take the burden of making sure that it works with every Nuage release.
Question.
Sure.
Who is we? Are you part of R&D? Do you deliver together with the Nuage release, or is there a delay after the Nuage product has been released to update the Metro?
Yeah, so we are part of an organization. I don't know if you know Raymond Zhang, but we're part of Raymond Zhang's group in the Nuage organization. He's part of something we call CASO, which is Cloud Architecture Solutions and Operationalization. We're the operationalization part of it. We exist in order to create the installation and upgrade platform that we're talking about today. We are not part of engineering, but we have a close relationship with engineering. And when the release comes out, our goal is that we will be ready within 2 weeks of release coming out. Often it's sooner than that, but that's our goal, is that there's a 2-week delay between the release of a software and us being able to say, yes, indeed, we support it. In terms of the folks who are using MetroAE, we have more than 550 registered users. It's probably close to 575 this morning. And among those registered users, we find customers who are using MetroAE. We find partners. We find folks on the services team, and just anybody who's it could be anybody who's involved in installation and upgrade of the Nuage components. And what I have, the URL I have there on the screen, devops.nuagenetworks.net, that's our website. And you can go there to register for access if you don't already have it. And you can also find information about the platform itself, as well as a link to the YouTube videos that I talked about before. In this release, version 3.4, we made one small modification or enhancement to our upgrade process. So we already supported major and patch release upgrades. So for example, I call a major release going from like 5.4.1 to 6.03. We support that already. And we already support patch releases such as 5.4.1 U1 to 5.4.1 U5 or U7 or whatever that happens to be. And in this particular release, we made sure that we had support for the patch 6.04. So now you can also upgrade from 6.03 to 6.04 as of this release. When we go out with MetroAE 4 at the end of March, our plan is to support 6.05, coincident with that release. All right, so now we're going to talk about VSD features. One of the things that one of the requests we got from the field is, hey, I have a customer. This customer has to move some equipment, and they're going to power down the servers where the VSDs are currently being hosted. Do you have anything that could help us with that? And we already had built in some playbooks into the platform that would take down the services for an upgrade. And so we thought, oh, well, that would be relatively simple for us. So we went ahead and we developed some playbooks that allow you to independently shut down the VSD and then restart it after it's over, or after the move is over. So that's a new feature that's available. And you would execute commands as what's shown down there at the bottom. VSD services stop would then gracefully shut down the VSD, and then services start or restart would take it back up. We also had code in place for doing certificates on the VSD during an install. And so we took that code and we enhanced it so that you can do certificate renewal on the VSD itself during the upgrade and also independently. So there's an additional play that you can execute that will renew the certificates if that's what you'd like to do. And as part of our health check that takes place after the install or after the upgrade, we added health status for the VSD REST API. So we execute the URL there, we parse the result, and we report on that. So this is in addition to the other health checks that we do. There's dozens of health checks that we execute, and this is just another one that we've added to the list. Right, so now we're going to talk about new components. Shro, I think you're on the line, right?
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Shuo. Today I want to talk about the new components that we support for Metro 3.4. The first one that I want to talk about is NUH, which is the NUH utility host. The NUH is responsible for providing the load balancing for the VSD in the cluster. For Metro 3.4, we will add the support for both the SA and HA mode. Currently, we only support the one interface and the KVM only, but in the future, we have the plan to add 3 interface and the vCenter support. We can see the example on the right. The second one I want to mention today is SD-WAN portal. Currently, we will support the SD-WAN 601. We have seen the example on the right. We will support SA mode and HA mode for the SD-WAN. On the one hand, for the SA mode, we will need only 1 portal section. On the other hand, for the HA mode, we will need 3 portal section. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shro. Okay, and the next section is for the enhancements that we've made. So one of the things that we've seen is we've had customers who said, hey, I'm trying to run MetroAE on a host that isn't in the data center. It doesn't have direct access to the VSDs and the VSCs. We want to do an upgrade. And what we'd like to do is use an SSH proxy to sit in the middle. Under the covers, Metro is primarily written in Ansible. Ansible uses SSH to communicate with the hosts that it's operating on. And so we need SSH connectivity. And in this case, we've had customers who said, hey, I just can't get there. And so we've added support for the existence of an SSH proxy. So we can now operate normally through the SSH proxy. And in one of the YAML files that is input, it's called common.yml. There are two parameters that one would add. And you have to provide us with the username that would be acceptable at the proxy, and then the name of the proxy host. One of the target platforms that we support is deploying the components on OpenStack. In that case, we received a request that said, hey, we use heat templates, and currently in the heat templates, you people don't support the availability zone, and we would like you to support that. So this is something that we've added. So now for the VSDs, the VSCs, and the Elasticsearch components, you can specify it per component. It's optional, you don't have to, but it's a little extra support.
Hi, my name is Mike Pykosh, and I'm in the Metro team. I'd like to talk to you about inputs to the Metro system. I'd like to first introduce the MetroAE Wizard. This is actually a feature that was added in a previous release, but it's been enhanced now in our current release. So the MetroAE Wizard provides a step-by-step walkthrough of setting up MetroAE to do a deployment or upgrade, and handles everything that is needed to do those tasks. So with the new 3.4 release, we are going to now include the Nuage utility host, VNS components such as VNS utils, NSGVs, and NSGV bootstrapping, as well as the import of a spreadsheet containing your deployment data in CSV format. So this is another new feature of 3.4, and this is that MetroAE now supports the input of our data, deployment data, through spreadsheets in CSV format. There are multiple ways of importing these spreadsheets into MetroAE. It can be imported via the wizard. There's a deployment tool to perform a conversion from the spreadsheet into our standard YAML format. And it can be specified directly on the command line as the deployment name by providing MetroAE the tasks, such as install everything, and then the spreadsheet.csv. There's a template that is available in the repo that has a starter, a starting template to be able to fill out the basic information that's needed.
All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure components. One of the features that we've introduced is something, well, this is actually two features. Hooks is one of them, and skip actions is another. And you can look for more detail on this in an upcoming webinar, but I'll give you kind of a high level view. So what we had was we had customers coming to us and saying, hey, I would like a way for Metro to execute my scripts along with your scripts. So we implemented hooks. And that is, there are certain locations in our code where you can define an arbitrary script or command to be executed. If you want to interleave, this is basically a way for you to interleave Metro operations with custom operations for your customer. And you specify the hooks as shown on the right at the very top. And then you specify the location as shown down at the bottom. So there's a lot of detail there, and we'll provide more information about that. It's very flexible in that you can also have variables in there, excuse me, so that You can use the same script in multiple different applications. And basically what happens is Metro is humming along, doing its work. It hits one of these hooks, it executes, and it holds off until that script is finished. If that script fails, we report a failure. If it succeeds, we continue on with the next step. Skip actions is basically a way to say, hey, there are certain things that I don't want you to do, Metro. There are things that you're normally going to do, and I don't want you to do them. And so you can list the actions so it'll skip. This way, you can say, hey, there's something I don't want you to do, but I don't want to go through the low-level playbooks. I just want to say install everything. And so that's what skip actions allows you to do. In the current release in 3.4, it's currently limited to only the pre-deploy actions. And we'll talk a little bit more about exactly what that means on the next slide. So a demonstration of an application of skip actions and also the flexibility of our design is our integration with tools like Terraform. And we've gone ahead and published a best practice document for how to integrate MetroAE with Terraform, because we've had a couple of customers come to us and say, hey, I'm using Terraform to spin up my VMs. I don't want you to do that. So we went ahead and just kind of proved that out, and we run some tests. We've published the document. We have automated testing as part of our suite. So every so often we'll run a Terraform test in our lab just to verify that everything's still working. At the very top of the slide, or in the orange area, you see on the left, it says all MetroAE. So the fundamentals of the way Metro works is that there's a pre-deploy step, a deploy step, and a post-deploy step. The pre-deploy step is responsible for checking prerequisites and instantiating any VMs. The deploy step is responsible for doing things like doing a yum update on the VSD, installing the VSD software, creating certificates, and so on. And then the post-deploy is kind of a sanity/health check. On the right, that's the way it would look when you're integrating with Terraform. Terraform would be responsible for the instantiation of the VM, and then Metro would take over from there. So this is an example of the way that you can use it. We've got a document that's available online, and you can see how that's working. So how to find out more about MetroAE? We have our website. It has some documentation on it, but the most important parts is maybe see it down there on the right. It's probably hard to read, but there's a request access button. If you click that, you'll fill out a form. That'll come to us, and we'll go ahead and add access for you so that you can get to Metro. Further on down on that page, the web page, if you scroll down, you'll find there's a link to our YouTube playlist. There's a link to it there at the bottom of the screen on the left side. Once you get into the repo, and I've got that URL there, the github.com URL, once you have access and you can get there, you can either download the RPM, the MetroAE RPM, if you want to use the container version, or you can then do a git clone and use the command line version. And we're always available at email at devops@nuagenetworks.net. So that mail comes to me and everybody on the Metro team. And with that, we come to the end of our presentation. I'd like to open it up for questions.
Hi. I already posted my question in the chat, so you will be able to. No, you will be able to forget about it. But I had a quick one. In some time we need to do upgrade straight to a given release. We need to do an install in 5.4 U7, for instance. I saw you do support upgrade to a patch version, but I was wondering if we can still straight install into 5.4 U7, for instance, or U8, or do we need to do it in 2 steps?
I'm sorry. What was the steps? What were the versions? I was moving things around on the screen and I zoned out. Sorry.
No worries. So yeah, let's assume we have to do an install in 5.4 U8, for example. Can we do it in one install script, or do we need to do an install first and then an upgrade?
So the answer depends on whether there's, so for example, if you're in a KVM environment, the answer depends on whether the QCOW2 files are available. If you have a 541U8 QCOW2, yes, we'll just directly install that. If there is none available, then it would be a two-step process. You would install 541 and then execute the patch upgrade to U8.
Okay, thank you. That doesn't answer my question.
Great. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. Let me go through and see what else we had. 7. We've got a question that asks, can we upgrade New Edge elements from MetroAE that were installed manually? Yes, absolutely. There's nothing about the way Metro operates that requires you to use it to do the install if you want to do an upgrade. So we've done this a bunch of times where we've had customers who say, hey, I've got 541, I want to upgrade, and we've done that successfully. Does MetroAE support dual stack install? I assume that's IPv4 and IPv6. I know that we can do.
We do IPv6.
You can do IPv6 on the management plane. Mm-hmm. Do we do dual stack, Mike?
We do. No, I don't think we do dual stack.
Yeah, I think
just IPv6 only.
Yeah, the way we've done it is IPv4 or IPv6 on the management plane, but not dual stack. I think that's accurate statement. All right, so that looks like the end of the chat questions. Are there any other questions that you folks have?
Can you use the Metro tool to upgrade a Nuage installation which was done manually, or are there dependencies?
Yes, you can use it to upgrade something that was done manually. Absolutely. No dependencies on Metro to do the install.
Okay.
You talk about the multiple deployment that can sit into the deployment folder. Can we have subfolder in it? I mean, or do we need to have one folder in each deployment folder?
Yeah, it's not nestable. So the way it kind of works is that you can, it assumes that all of your YAML files for the deployment are contained in that folder. The one thing it does support that you might not be aware of is that if you specify the full path to the deployment folder, you can locate it in a different place. So if it was nested in that way, like you would, if you provide the full path, it could find that folder, but it would expect all of the deployment files to be fully contained in that folder.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I would summarize what you said as, if I said MetroAE install everything data center 1, it would assume that data center 1 was a directory in the deployments folder.
Correct.
If I said /temp/data center 1, it would go find that folder on the file system on the host.
Correct.
And it would work just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Other questions? All right, folks, that sounds like it. Thank you so much for joining.
Hello.
Oh, is there another question?
There are 2 or 3 questions on the chat. For example, I asked if we can upgrade New Edge elements that were installed manually, for example, or is it something not in the MetroAE?
Yes, you can. If it's installed manually, yes, you can still use MetroAE to upgrade. Yes.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So and I think you have
2 other questions in the chat, I think.
Okay. Are there any other questions in the chat that I missed? I tried to hit them all.
Yeah, I mean, not in the chat, but I have one which come in my mind, but maybe this is very specific. So if it is too specific, I mean, you can push back and we will discuss by email.
Well, let's see. What is it?
When I noticed that when you deploy a VSC, you do have 2 choices today. Either you put a gateway and then you do have a default route which is installed. But as soon as you have multiple VSC, there is one static route per peer. And then the BGP is built with all the peers. So I was wondering if there are other models that we can use to in this Metro, or if it is still the case with the configuration of the VSC configuration file.
Yeah, so we've in the 4.0 release that's coming out at the end of the month, we're being a little bit more flexible with the configuration of the VSC. And so, for example, we're adding support for multiple underlays. You can specify multiple VPRNs and VLANs. But as in terms of the BGP configuration, we currently aren't supporting anything like that. So what would be great is if you wouldn't mind, just send me a brief email or send it to the DevOps at nuagenetworks.net, either one, describing the configuration that you need. And we'll definitely put that on the list of things to do. And we can go back and forth a little bit with the details.
Yeah, but I will for sure. But my idea was that I mean nowadays we are using route reflector, so I mean that could be one of the other configurations supported. You just provide the route reflector IP, and then the BGP configuration is built instead of in the full mesh BGP session. But yeah, I'll ping an email.
Yeah, that would be good, and that way we could have a conversation about it. But certainly, you know, the route reflector stuff has come up a couple of times before, not too many times, but certainly something we want to continue to talk about.
So, Brand, one question from my side. Does this MetroAE supports the ONI installation as well, or in some way complements the ONI installation? Because we have the customer install base which is running on 5.3.2.
Okay, did you say ONA?
ONIE. Prior to 5.4.1, we do not have the functionality of the in-band upgrade.
Yeah, so I'm not at all familiar with that. This is the first I've heard.
Okay, so as in MetroAE functionality, so what is the starting release it will be supporting for the upgrade?
Oh, well, we support from, we used to do 4.0R11, upgrades from 4.0R11.
5.3.
So I think we're officially supporting in this release an upgrade from 5.2.3. Yeah. But if you go back into previous versions of Metro, we could do earlier versions of software.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the challenge is through documentation also we saw that the releases prior to 5.4.1 they were using the Linux ONI method, wherein we always needed a field engineer at the site who used to either plug in a SD or maybe an USB card and put the image onto that and it goes for a reboot. However, from 5.4.1 onwards, now from a centralized location, which can be customer NOC. Now from their location, we can remotely push the image into the switch, into the WBX or the other elements, and then we can go for the upgrade.
Okay.
So maybe that there could be a case. So MetroAE supports the WBX upgrade also, or it is only for the VSC VSD?
It is only for VSD VSC. It's not for. That's why I got confused with what you were talking about. Yeah. So we don't currently support any of the WBX stuff.
Oh, I got it. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't quite catch what the question was. All right, other questions?
There's a comment. There's a fabric builder project in the G&E blueprint that does support WBX, and it's intended to be an extension of Metro. It's inspired by Metro, and I believe they are working on making that part of the blueprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar with the fabric builder. It's currently not something that Metro team supports.
Correct.
All right, other questions? Right. So there's been a request, can you show us some demo of Metro? So that demo is what we will be providing in our next webinar. I'm expecting to have that in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks from now. So in that webinar, we'll be able to give you more demo. You can see it working. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for joining. I'm going to stop the recording now.
very much.